Hi guys, thanks for stopping by. I'm Cindi with Impressing Ideas, and many of you have asked what the difference is between Distress Oxide and Distress Ink, and also why do I want to use this little white thing that comes on your really fabulous Tim Holtz glass media mat. So I thought this is a perfect excuse to use the brand new Feathered Friends and the brand new 3D embossing folder Brickworks. Bring a small selection of inks and, pull out a oldie but goodie and a stamp. So let's get started on what we're gonna do. I thought I'd create an easel card, and hopefully you can see, this Brickworks embossing folder is amazingly cool. The Feathered Friends is super easy, and I think it's really cute. We're going to use some of the Graphic 45, one of the dies rather, that includes the vines and leaves. And when you open it, it's going to stand up, find the blessing and everything, which is really what we need to do. So let me turn this around so you can see this better. Let's see, how do I do this? I wanted you to stand on your head for a second with me. Okay, let's get started. So first, let me clear my space. Let's start with the Brickworks embossing folder. There are some tips that I like to include and show you as you consider this. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of the Gina Desert Storm paper, just because I think it's wonderful. It holds plenty of product. It's a great color. The first thing I want you to see is I cut my paper to be the size of the embossing folder. You don't have to do that. It just makes it easy. And before I use this, I'm actually going to spritz it. I'm going to spritz both sides of the paper. You don't have to hose it down, but I'm going to go ahead and slip that in. And when you use the 3D embossing folder, it's thicker, which means your recipe is going to be different than normal. So rather than if you have the Vagabond, you will remove this top shim, leaving just the platform. Then you're going to put your embossing folder in, and you're only going to use one cutting plate instead of two. So you do not have to have the Vagabond. I just happen to have that in the studio. You can use any embossing folder, any die cut machine, or just the embossing machine. And I'm just going to run that through. Now, if you want to get the most dimension out of your 3D embossing folders, you're going to do that multiple times. So I'm going to put that through again. And just for good measure, I'll just dial that back and ask it to come return to me. Okay, let's call that good enough. Put my platform back, my shim rather, back in. Put my plates away. Let me get this out of the way. And let's show you what that looks like. This is crazy cool. When you wet your paper down, it helps to prevent any kind of cracking. Now look at the incredible dimension that you get out of that. I hope that this shows you an adequate amount of detail, because I don't even have adequate words. This is amazing. All the little tiny pits, all the different heights of the different brick. I mean, wow. I'm gonna do that one more time, but I can do it off camera with this smaller piece, because remember, in the easel card, we need to have a place for it to hold. So that's what it's gonna do. I'm gonna just use that leftover piece. That way we're not wasting. So, and I'll do that in just a minute. How do we make this even cooler? Well, let's add some of the Nouveau Embellishment Mousse and maybe a couple of the Distress inks. So there's lots of ways you could add some color to these inks. One would be, let's just use one of the, I don't even have one with me, so never mind. We're gonna do this a different way. I'm gonna just put some ink on the white mat. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna show you the difference right here. I'm gonna put some on the mat here and some on the glass, just so you can see how that responds differently. Realizing I just put this dye ink on black. Dye ink is transparent, right? Y'all remember that? So when you put transparent ink on a black surface, it disappears. Well, let's just kind of run that through. So see how I can pick up quick color just randomly? If you have this white area, this mat, it's textured. So you get these little droplets of ink that stand up on top of that surface. See the difference? Immediately you can see the application is different. So I'm just gonna pick some up randomly, lit. How's that? You gotta make the sounds. I'm gonna dry that. And I don't want anything too crazy because this is just a really distressed bit of Brickworks. I'm using my heat tool. It's still the same heat as your embossing gun, but a heat tool, the airflow is much broader. Your embossing gun, there's that defined airflow. Is that what I'm trying to say? So if you use a heat gun, like I was just doing, its purpose is to help me dry rather than emboss. Could I emboss with that? Yes. But I'd have to wait. I'm not a really good waiter. How about you? Are you patient as you watch things dry? I'm terrible at that. Anyways, so here we go. Now we've embossed, we've added a little color. Let's go ahead and add some of this Nouveau Embellishment Mousse. Now this particular mousse is the color Platinum. There's lots of ways you could use it. I'm just gonna use this little sponge. You could use an applicator, you could just use your finger. And I'm just gonna randomly throw down a little color. I'm not trying to saturate the whole thing. I'm just trying to get some highlights in here. And we're gonna call that good, okay? Now let's do those same things to this second piece. Let's set this aside. The embellishment mousse is it dries really quickly, which I was surprised by. The embellishment mousse, I'll just talk about it while I'm doing this because you already saw what I did. The embellishment mousse, you can do anything with it that you would do with any other water-based product, meaning you can add it to your stamp and stamp with it. You can make really beautiful backgrounds with it. You can add embossing powder into it and then heat it and get some pretty incredible results. You can use it through a stencil. You can just smear it on, you know, your flowers or your embellishments in your mixed media. There's plenty of things that you can do with this. And again, it dries quickly. So it comes on several colors. The ones that I have in my personal collection are a couple of shades of gold and a couple of shades of pearly silver. So I really like them. They're really fun. If you haven't had a chance to play with them, I highly recommend them. Okay, so now we have our two pieces. What are we going to attach that with? Well, recently many of you bought some of the brand new Blue Fern Studios papers from their Easter collection. So I thought, you know what? I had one laying right here. Side A is, it looks like this. Let me see if I put it back together correctly. Yep. This is from the Spring, Blue Fern Studios Spring Parade. This particular piece is April Medley. Now this time I went ahead and cut the label off because we don't need that today. Throw that away. And I cut one piece in half, so it is now 6 by 12. Then I cut the remainder in half again, and I actually did like a 1/16 of an inch off, so it's more like 5 and 15/16. And then this one is the scrap. Now you can see that that's the piece that I cut out our vines and leaves, which we're going to use in just a minute. But let's make our easel card. So we're going to use these two pieces. I'm going to get out my scoreboard. Get my ink out of the way. I am going to have us focus on side B, okay? So let's put this in our scoreboard so that it's 12 inches across. So if you have not made an easel card before, we're gonna divide this in half. So I'm saying it like this because if you wanted to do a smaller one, you would score it in half. So in my case, 6 inches. And then one of the sections, you're gonna score it in half again. So I have 6 inches, let's score it in half. That would make it 3 inches, okay? And you know what? I'm so silly. I should have had that on the other side. I'm gonna rescore, forgive me. 3, 6, because I always like to fold so that I am hiding the bump, okay? So I got my score lines, we're gonna fold. Now if you haven't heard me say this before, Blue Fern Studios is a wonderful, wonderful paper. It's 100 pound, and when you score it, increase it, it does not hold, excuse me, it does not crack. How glorious is that? Because I know if you've been stamping or scrapbooking for any length of time, you know how happy that makes you. Okay, so we're gonna layer this so that we have a solid image instead of looking at this. And then I'm gonna set this aside. Let's see here. I'm gonna switch gears. I'm gonna do it like this and like this. I just changed my mind. It's a woman's prerogative, isn't it? So I'm gonna reburnish. Okay. All right. So I am going to put adhesive in this area. You could use liquid glue. I'm going to go ahead and use my score tape. Any size will work. I make lots of books, and so I happen to have my perfect corner ruler nearby. It also acts as a wonderful tool to cut your score tape, which it tears easily, so that's not really a big deal. I just happen to have it within arm's length, so I'm using it. This is the only place that there will be adhesive. And anytime you use score tape, you always burnish it in place, removing all of your air bubbles. And it also, as an added benefit, helps the release paper come away nice and easy. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz craft pick, remove the protective liner. Throw that in the trash. All right, well, let's, oops, I have one more. Okay. Line this up as straight as I can. Oops. Good enough. I could have put it on this piece, put the adhesive on this piece, but then I would have taken the chance of getting adhesive in the wrong spot. So that's my why. Most of you know I am a why girl, meaning I always like to know, why did you just tell me that? So I just answered you. That's why. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and use some liquid adhesive for our brick. Now this is a very textured piece since we ran it through our embossing folder. I'm sorry, our die cut machine and our embossing folder. So I'm going to need to be a little patient here. I'm also going to put more adhesive than I generally do to make up for that texture. I will be very excited when art glitter glue starts shipping again. I'm getting down to the nitty and the gritty. Gosh, I don't think I ever put that much adhesive on. But we'll need it for this. Okay, I'm going to sort of center that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Give that just a moment. In fact, I'm going to put my I'm going to move this. I'm going to set it over here for a second, put my Misty on top of it. Put my scoreboard away because we are now done with that. While we're letting that glue dry, I'll go ahead and quickly apply a little bit of the embellishment mousse again to this bottom piece. Quick, quick, quick. Good enough. Okay, we'll set that aside. Now, while we're letting that glue dry, let's talk about some of the oxides. So many things you can do with Distress Oxides. If anybody were to ask me what my favorite inks were, it would be these, absolutely, without a doubt. The oxides are an entirely different ink than any other ink than you own. Dye inks, which was the original Distress ink, they are a thin, translucent, quick-drying ink. The oxides are a fusion, they're a hybrid ink, but the mix in there that makes them so different is pigment. So it has a fusion of dye and pigment ink, which means that opposite of dye, I'm going to repeat, thin, quick drying, translucent is pigment. Pigment is opaque, thick, and slow drying. Well, if you have that combination, you have the best of both worlds. So we're gonna see what that means in just a moment. One of the many things that you can do is you can take some mixed media paper, you can take some watercolor paper, something that is going to hold a good amount of ink. And I'm just gonna take the lid off and I'm gonna smear some ink down. Now, normally a pigment ink has a squishy foam pad, but this doesn't. This has the same kind of pad as the Distress ink. It's still that firm pad, but the ink stays on top. So you just press just slightly. I'm gonna take just a few colors. So let's just do these 3. I am working on this because again, I like that texture. And then let's use Tim's spray bottle. If you don't have Tim's spray bottle, doesn't matter. You just want a mist. And you want to put enough water down so that you can see those droplets. And let's show you why. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to just kind of run some ink down. And then I'm going to turn that over. Look at that already. Oh my gosh. Now, I love what Tim says when he is demonstrating. He always says, put your paper down, turn it over, and dry it. Dry adds layers, wet blends. So he always tells you, dip it in your ink, and then you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. I love that. Now remember that that first dip and dry, it's just that. It's just your first layer. So keep going. Look at how cool that is. Again, I'm using the heat tool. This is a Ranger tool. Love it. 360 degrees, so don't use it on your hair. Now I'm going to go in. Now, if this was dye ink and I went back in, what I would get immediately are, it's fun, you can do it, but you don't, I can take this lightest color, this green, and put it on top of the brown, and because of the pigment, it will show up on the brown. So let's show that to you. I'm gonna come over here. See that? I dipped it in there. That green, because of the pigment in there, is sitting up on top. And because it's dry, it's sitting up on top. So let's do some of that over here. Let's get some brown and some blue. Okay? Now, maybe we want that ink to move. So you can mist it. Okay, and let's dry that. With each layer you dip, then you dry. Now, do you have to dry? You don't have to dry with the heat tool. You could just set it aside to dry naturally on its own, but you do want to make sure it's dry before you do your next layer. Otherwise, you're going to mix the colors, which maybe that's what you want to do. So back to me being a Y person. Well, now you know what. Okay, let's get this. See the difference when you add the water? It comes back to life. Let's see here, let's go. Boom. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing different areas of the paper and touching it down. Okay, let's grab over here. Love it, love it, love it. Dry. And you could keep going. These colors are peeled paint, broken china, and walnut stain. You don't have to use any particular colors, just try. Try different colors, see if you like it. Sometimes you'll get interrupted and you'll come back to it and you'll have a new energy or a new something going on, which will change what your thought might have been before, and you'll try something new and it will be like, oh, why didn't I think of that before? Okay. All right. All right, now I'm gonna clean this area up. Oops. I hate wasting that ink, but I also don't want you going to sleep on me. Now, let's dry this. And what other color do we want to add? Let's add a little marmalade, spice marmalade. Or, you know what? No, let's show you the difference. These are oxides. Let's add a distress ink. This is mustard seed. Let's see what that will do. Okay, do the same thing. Remember, the distress ink is a dye ink. Thin, quick drying, translucent. Now, the distress inks are a little bit brighter. Tim's Distress is a brand. I don't think I said that. Distress is Tim's brand. There are 60 colors. The color names are all the same, but depending on the product that you pick up, whether it's the distress crayons, the distress stains, the distress oxides, the distress inks, the distress sprays, the distress oxide sprays. Goodness, what else is there? They're gonna appear slightly different. He designed them so that, you know, he loves mixed media and he loves for his products to all work together, but they're all unique. So if you're working with this color palette, you can choose any of your products and it's not going to go, whoa, what were you thinking? They're designed to all go together. So if you were to use the distress oxide in the color peeled paint and the distress ink in the color peeled paint, the colors appear different. But that's because of the formula, not because they're supposed to be perfectly matched. Anyways, I hope you can see that the dye ink is a little brighter. I hope you can also see that you can absolutely use them together in the same project. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to use your blending tool and go from the distress ink into the distress oxide, because then it would change the formula of this ink and you will be crabby later. And I know most of us have a no crabby policy in our crafting space or our studio. So that is a one thing that I learned the hard way. You don't share a dauber. Even though it's the same color, it's a different formula of product. So don't combine those. You can combine them on your mat, but not so that the pads are contaminated. Okay, let's see. I feel like this needs just something, a little bit something else. So let's add some spiced marmalade. Ooh. Okay. Okay, let's dry that. I love how you start to get those little droplets. And it's because of this mat. I could do that very same thing on this glass, but if you do it on the glass, you know, you still can mix your colors and such. It just looks different. And I'm addressing the what do I do with the mat, so in particular. Okay, so, and now that as I'm dipping and it gets that wet, it's now pulling ink from here to here. Let's grab some of that. Fun. Okay, clear that off, clear that off. Okay, let's dry that. In fact, I'm gonna let that sit there for a second because I see some of the ink is wet, which is gonna help make some of those little watermarks. Can you see those very well? So cool. I hope you can see that in just playing around, there was nothing strenuous about what I'm doing. You can make some incredible backgrounds, or you can create some things for you to use for your die cuts, which is what we're going to do with the Feathered Friends in just a minute. Before I finish this though, I'm going to do one more thing, and that is I'm just going to spritz, some light spritz, and then I'm going to have a slow trigger over here to get some bigger dots. I know you guys have seen this a million times, but you could either pick that water up right away with a paper towel, or you could just be very slow, let it sit there. You could even let it move a little bit and then pick it up. Can you see that? Now we're lifting color, but we're also leaving a watermark. I love that. I'm gonna bring that up so you can see that even better. Oops. I hope I'm getting that. Anyways, so much more you can do, so much more. But in the effort of time, my whole point in doing that is I wanted to also show you Feathered Friends. I love birds. And this is one of the new dies. So I'm gonna die cut some of those out. Oops, here they are. I want you to see, here's how simple these are. Each bird has the full shape, a little bit smaller shape, and a wing. Oops. So 2 birds, oops, and a wing, okay? So I'm gonna die cut those out. And I'm gonna use this paper, wait. Let's see. Let's see if I could fit it all in here. I don't even know. Ooh. We can. Okay. I'm gonna take it over to my die cut. Bear with me. Let me get all my little bits out of here. And then watch how simple this is. So then you're gonna take your silhouette and we can glue this on top. Look at how cool that is. This guy. Now if you wanna have a little contrast, you can absolutely do that. Or maybe you're gonna love exactly how it comes out. Here, his wing can be a contrast. Oh, I like how this turned out, guys. Okay, where's my glue? Get some glue. Oh, it's staring at me. Do you guys lose things on from yourself? It's just sitting right there, but you can't see it. That's my constant. Okay, I'm just gonna put some glue there. You can see I didn't pop out all the little pieces because I don't think I need to worry about it. I'm sure you'll do a better job. Let's put this together. Look at these colors. Oh my goodness. Have you ever paid attention to how many colors are in birds? Oh my. One of the things that I'm using to help me line this up, see these little rounded areas for his legs? I'm matching it up right here with his legs. I'm lining up that tail. See how it, I mean, this really comes together easily. It's not one of those that makes you doubt that you can do it. I don't know, guys. Should I pop these out? I'm gonna take a quick minute. Pop, pop, pop. Through. You are like it. These designers are just genius, aren't they? Okay, a little bit of glue there. Let's see. I could even do this. Maybe I'm going to go like that. Yeah, a little bit of glue here. I love art glitter glue. It dries quickly. I get the dries clear, although there is a dries matte as well. Quick, quick, quick. That is done. Put the pen back in my glue. Now, one thing that I think is super fun, this is a great use, one more great use for the glaze pens from Sakura. See, there is a hole there for the bird's eyes, and it's meant to just be left alone. But if I just do a little dot with my black glaze pen, look at how different that makes it. Makes it just pop. And I am thinking that if I use just a little bit of Distress ink right there on his beak, that might look nice. I could use the applicator, one of the sponge blending tools. Let me see if I can just drag it in the corner. Boom. What do you think? Could even go over his head a little. Now I'm fussing, which I don't need to do. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Look at me. Maybe I'm even gonna get that wet a little, let it move. Okay. All right. You can spend all day making really great backgrounds. You know, and then, you know, maybe that's what you want to do for an afternoon, and then put them in a pile, because you never know when you need to make that next quick card. They're ready to go. Okay, so now we've got our birds. What else do we want to do? Let's add, oh, that's right, I die cut out one of the flowers from this set here. So let's this time use some spiced marmalade and some fired brick, and let's use some peeled paint. Oops, excuse that dropping of my lid. Ooh, speaking of these pads, do you see that the Oxide has a gray base and the Distress inks have a black base? That helps distinguish the two. All of the Distress inks come in a black case. All of the Oxides come in a gray case. Okay, so here's my die cut piece. It is made out of 140 pound watercolor paper. I'm gonna do the same thing we did before. Got it on my white mat. This time I'm gonna drag the head of that flower through both colors. And I'll let it kind of run, because that's a lot of water. Maybe I'll even help it along. Okay. Okay, talk about quick coloring. Let's do the stem, the leaves, and I'm going to leave some of it absent of color, so you can see on the same area the difference between the Distress ink and the Distress Oxide. Okay. And just pick that up. You see how the Oxide has that chalky kind of finish? Oh, sadness. I'm gonna wipe this away. Why didn't I grab another piece of paper? God, could have been another cool background. Okay, let's dry this. Now, if you can help it, it's always better to hold your paper up so that your heat tool will go through the paper. That helps keep it from warping. I didn't think to grab a pair of tweezers. That would have helped. Now, as this dries, you really see that velvety, chalky finish that the oxides deliver. So see how in both the flower there's a little bit of white space, and in the stem there's some white space. I'm going to add a little Distress ink over the top to show you Distress ink versus Distress Oxide in the same element. So let's use some Distress Mustard Seed and a blending tool. And let's add a little of the mustard seed to the head. And look at how I quickly just make the head of the flower a little more vibrant with an entirely different color, with a lighter color for that matter. I just happen to have this color nearby. I could have grabbed the Spice Marmalade or the Fired Brick, one of the colors of the Oxides, but I didn't. I just had this. I do want you to see, though, you can mix the two on your project. So let's do that same thing with the Distress ink and the peeled paint. Love this color. Okay. You could either pounce, or you can color with your blending tool. So they're very similar, which is the design, but a little bit brighter in the Distress ink. Okay. Okay, I could have used my Distress markers as well. Again, 60 colors. Every one of the products that are in the Distress line. I hope I'm thinking of all of them. The plan is that there will be 60 colors, if they aren't already, no matter what the product is. The Distress ink, the Distress Oxides, the Distress markers, the Distress crayons. In fact, the Distress crayons, I think there are 4 extra. White, gold, silver, copper. Yeah, I think. Don't growl at me if I'm off, but there are a few extra colors in the crayons. Look at, you can also decorate your hands as evidence that you've been crafting. Okay, so now we've got our brick, we've got our easel card, we've got our birds. Let's put it all together, shall we? Let's clear our space. If there's something that I haven't covered, please ask in the comments. I will look at all of those and promise to get back to you on that. Now I just, oh, I was gonna say, now I just gotta find my card. I forgot. It's under the Misty, so that the glue dried. Look at how nicely that holds. Okay, so let's build our, oh, the other thing, goodness, I keep interrupting myself. The other thing I wanted to do Remember I said one of the last piece of the paper that we cut, we used it to die cut out the vines and leaves. This is from the Graphic 45 large tag die set. Has a large tag die, the ATC tag die, and lots of flowers, leaves, and vines. And I just wanted to use the leftover here because why get out some more? But I do think that it would be good if we were to use some distress ink to match, to bring some consistency in. So I'm just going to hold this, use my blending tool, and add a little color. Do you have to do this? No. Let's do that to a few. I could have also just, put this ink on the mat like I did earlier and drug it through. Just, I'm trying to think of some different ways you can use it. It's a great way to hide the white core of any cardstock that might be double-sided. Use your blending tool in either one of these inks. Okay. Just in case, let's do one more. All right, now we can put these away, this away, and this. Okay. All right, let's start assembling. All right, let's see. Let's bring some vinery. Let's do a dry run. Let's kind of lay some things out and see what we think. Just imagining these birds are gathering around to see how each of them are doing. Let's see. What do you think? Something like that. Add a pop of color here. Have him resting on this one. What this means, I need to go around the edges of these birds. Make sure we don't have those white edges. Will also help them pop. But you could also use a black marker too. That'd be quick and easy. Your blending tools always work the best for you when you really load them up with ink. So notice I didn't just do this. Trying to think of some tips for you. I love crafters. They are forever trying to help inspire one another, teach one another. Love that. All right. Okay. Let's get out our glue. And just put it in some of the larger areas. Not going to worry about the whole area because they're leaves. that around the top. I'm going to have a supply list attached in case you have any of these. Then you can just pull those out. Of course, you can use whatever you have in your stash. We do always have the full, or at least the goal is to always have the entire line of Oxides. They are my core ink. They are fantastic if you want to ink up your stamp and stamp them, and that's again because of the fusion of the dye and the pigment. They blend beautifully with your blending tools, your blending brushes, all of that. They're fantastic. They blend like butter. And as you just saw, you can do all kinds of fabulous backgrounds. So they emboss. You can put them on your mat and pick up a wet paintbrush and watercolor with them. So they really, really are fantastic. Okay, and finally, let's put our, not finally, we still have our birds. I'm going to put some adhesive in some key areas here. Good enough. Stick this bird down. Let's do a little pop dot behind him. Some foam adhesive. Lift him up a little. Get these light as a feather birds on top of the vinery. And let's do the same. Let's go ahead and put the pin in my glue. And he's a tall guy, so let's give him 3. How cute are these birds? I love them. Okay, we still need to do the part where we're doing the easel, so let's do that now. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put, back to that dimension, I'm going to add some of these foam adhesive to the top part, and I'm burying them into those bricks. And I'm doing that where there's a more recessed area, because all of this is different. So let's see here. And then I'll add some liquid glue as well. I don't need the extra glue here, but I'm going to do it just the same. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Okay. And let's see. Let's put this. Where do we want this guy? Oops. Trying to not get my head in the way, but line it up at the same time. Did I do that well? No. All right, let's be smarter about this. Let's lay this flat. I know you're all probably saying, Cindi, lay it flat. Thank you, I heard you. Okay. So I didn't exactly lay it flat. I left some area. I'm gonna scoot it a little bit. I think I have a little forgiveness here. Yay, thank you. I'm gonna come down a little bit more. That's better. Okay. I'm rushing this glue. Sorry, glue. I'm just confident that you can do this. Oops. All right. Now you can just stamp a sentiment, whatever sentiment is most appropriate for the recipient. For me, I just love this Gina K. I'm going to show you the set. This is Gina K. Design's Majestic Peony stamp set. And I'm going to use Find the Blessing and everything. This is so pretty, especially if you love to color. Glorious. Nice thank you. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Wherever life plants you, bloom with grace. The love of a family is one of life's greatest blessings. Just a beautiful set. So let me set this aside for a minute. Let that glue take hold. And then I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink because it does such a fantastic job. So I'm going to put some paper in the Misty, put my stamp in there. I think that'll look nicely. Probably have more paper than I need, but let's find out together. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Clean that off in just a minute. And then I can either trim that down. I don't know if I want to trim that. I think that's good like that. Yeah. All right. Let's glue it. I'm going to trim it just a little. I like that better. Okay. Get out my ATG gun. Yes, it is one of my appendages. I use it so much. This is awesome for layering your papers, for adding your photos, anything like that. Quick and easy, repositionable, very reliable. Love it. And stick that down. Okay. All right, let me see if I can hold this up better for you, because I realize I can see this great, but You might not be able to see it. Oops, let's see. I think that's really pretty. I'll lay this down so that you can see how the person would see it when they first pull it out of the envelope. Then when they set it up, they can put it on their table, their fireplace mantle, whatever they think. I don't know how. Hope you're picking this up. Or hope I'm picking this up, not you. Anyhow, I'm trying to hold this in such a way that you can see this well. Add some beads. That would be pretty. The Studio Katia bubbles, those would be pretty. I'm going to put just a few assorted sized clear baubles. I think that would be pretty. Okay. Oops. If I just put that there. Some random. Oh, I think that's nice. Yep, I'm doing it. Okay. Art glitter glue. Okay. If you just put the glue down and then bring the gem to the glue dot, it's quick and easy. As I just knock it off. Should I put one in the middle of that flower? My question is. Any of you thinking that same thing? Let's turn that over. Let's see what that looks like. That changes the look. Nah. Okay. I'm gonna call that done, guys. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope this brought you some inspiration, and I hope you give this a try. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.